Department 1 is now in session. Your Honorable Mark E. Wyndham, Judge, presiding.
Please be seated, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to Department 1, People versus Robert Durst. Our jurors are all present. Mr. Durst is present with Mr. Chesnoff, Mr. DeGuerin. We have Mr. Balian in the lead this morning for the people, and all other prosecutors are present. Now, Mr. Balian, you wish to interrupt this video testimony. Go out of order to take witnesses who are traveling today.
Yes, they are traveling this afternoon, so we hope to finish them.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor. We'll be happy to accommodate Mr. Bailey.
You may take your next witness out of order.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Ruth Mayer.
Mr. Balian, someone's getting, oh, here she comes.
Yes, I'm sorry, the
Okay.
detective went there.
Sorry for
Sorry about
my impatience.
Come on in.
Please stand on the witness stand. Stand and raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. For the record, please state and spell your first and last name.
I'm Ruth Mayer.
Can I adjust the microphone, Your Honor?
You may, Mr. Balian.
Pardon my reach.
Oh, she's got
You
that.
got it, okay.
Good?
Speak right into it. That's right.
Okay. Did you hear my name?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Please spell it for the court, please. Spell your first and last name now.
Ruthmayer.
Thank you.
You may proceed, Mr. Balian.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You, what is your, are you working?
Yes,
What is your occupation?
I'm a psychologist.
Okay, and for how many years have you been a psychologist?
More than I want to admit, about 50, probably.
50?
Yeah?
Okay, well, you have a lot of experience, I guess, in that area after
Yeah.
50 years.
I do.
Where do you live?
I live in New Haven, Connecticut.
I guess what I should ask you is, where did you live in 1981, 1982?
I lived in South Salem, New York,
And what street did you live on?
Hoyt Street.
Hoyt Street? When did you move into that residence on Hoyt Street in South Salem?
Memorial Day of 1974.
Okay, and for how long did you live at that address?
I moved towards the end of 2003.
Okay. Were you married in 1981, 1982?
Yes,
And who were you married to?
Bill Mayer.
Bill Mayer. And did you and Mr. Mayer live together at that Hoyt Street address?
Yes, we did.
Did you move in to that address with Bill Mayer in 1974?
Yes,
Okay. Did you guys build that house, or was it built when you
we built it.
built it? I mean, wow.
We had it built.
I was going to say, you're pretty good with carpentry. And I'm going to ask you some questions today about things that happened in early 1982, late 1981. And I want you to understand that I don't remember is a perfectly acceptable answer. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
Yes,
I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. Do you understand that?
yes,
Okay. If you remember something, please tell us.
okay,
If you don't, then don't tell us. Is that fair?
yes,
Have you seen The Jinx and other TV productions regarding this incident while you're here testifying today?
yes, many.
And have you read different accounts of the events that you're testifying about here today?
Yes,
All right. What I want to know is, are you able to separate what you've seen and what you've read from what you've actually witnessed with your own eyes and heard with your own ears and experienced yourself?
yes,
Overruled.
You understand my question?
yes, I do.
Are you able to do that?
Yes,
Okay, and can you promise to do that today?
yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Did you have neighbors in South Salem in 1981 and 1982?
Yes,
Who were your neighbors?
Kathie and Bob Durst.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as People's 15 at this trial.
Uh,
You recognize the people
Yes,
in that photo?
of course.
Who is that?
Kathie and Bob.
And when did they move in approximately?
I'm trying to remember according to how old my daughter was. And I would say it would have been like 75, 76.
Okay.
Maybe 75 that summer. I'm not really sure.
Okay. You were living there first?
Yes.
All right. And did they live at 62 Hoyt Street in South Salem?
Well, next door, whatever the number was.
Okay, that's fair. Let me, I have a photograph, Your Honor. May I mark this as People's 50?
Yes.
And I have another photograph. May I mark this as People's 51?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm showing you what is marked as People's 50. Do you recognize that home?
Yes,
What home is that?
that's the Durst home.
Is that the home on Hoyt Street in South Salem when they lived next to you?
Yes, it was, an addition was put on after that, but it wasn't until many years after 1982.
Okay. Does this photograph fairly and accurately depict how this home looked when they lived next to you?
Yes,
And is this the front of the home, the side of the home? Oh. Everything went fine. Was that picture the front, the side?
side.
The side. Okay. So would this view of this home in People's 50 that you saw, it's back on, okay. Would that be then the view that you would be looking at from your home?
Yes,
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as People's 51. Is that a photograph of the front of the Durst home taken from the street?
front and side, it looks
Okay.
like.
Kind of at an
Probably
angle?
side. Yeah,
And does
Yeah.
this photograph fairly and accurately depict this home as it appeared when they lived next to you?
yeah, I think so. It's a little blurry, but I think so.
I would try to focus it, but it's the photo.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just very briefly describe what South Salem was like?
It's a hamlet in a larger town called Lewisboro. It's kind of small, has very little downtown area. All the people in our local area, there was an elementary school, everybody knew everybody whose kids went there.
Okay. What,
Kind of low-key.
how well did you know Kathie and Bob Durst?
They were our neighbors, and we were friendly.
And I guess I should ask you, do you recognize Do you see Bob Durst here in court today?
Yes.
Can you just point to him and tell the judge what he's wearing right now?
I see Bob, and he's aged a lot since that wonderful photo you showed me.
We all have.
Yeah.
Can you please tell the court what he's wearing right now?
A gray suit.
She's pointing to
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so how well did you get to know Kathie Durst?
We were very friendly. I felt like I got to know her over the years. I remember walking my young daughter over to visit. She was pretty little. I used to try to go out of my way to say hello whenever she was around. I wouldn't say we were best friends. She had her own best friends, but we were very friendly.
Okay. Would you socialize with the Durst, you and your husband at the time?
A little,
Would you have dinners with them?
from time to time, yes.
Okay. Had you been inside their home, the South Salem home?
Many times,
Had they been inside your home?
yes.
In the beginning, when they first moved in the 1970s, how often was Kathie Durst staying at that South Salem residence?
I think fairly often.
What was she doing at that time, as far as you're aware?
She was going to nursing school in Westchester County, so she was around fairly often.
So when she was in nursing school, would you say she was living more here or more away from that home?
More in the home.
Okay. And what about the defendant, Mr. Durst? In that period of time in the 70s, how often was he there?
I'm not sure, but often. But
Okay.
I don't know if he was in New York also.
Okay. How about after nursing school? Were you aware of what Kathie did after nursing school?
Yes, she went to medical school, and she wasn't around as often because the medical school was in New York, and I saw her more in the summers or weekends, and less frequently over the time she was in medical school on the weekends.
Okay. So in the summers, she would come spend more time at this home,
Yeah,
and on the weekends when she was in medical school, once in a while, she would
yeah,
come up.
yes,
Was she sometimes there without Mr. Durst? When
yes.
she was in medical school?
Yes,
Was she sometimes there with Mr. Durst
yes,
when she was in medical school?
yes.
What was Kathie like?
It was fun.
Describe her personality.
She was enthusiastic. She liked doing things. She had a very positive view of life. It was just easy to talk to her or hang out. I can't tell you deep discussions for most of the time until the end.
Okay. So, at some point in 1981, were you aware of domestic violence that was happening in the relationship between Kathie and Bob Durst?
I wasn't until she told me.
Okay. So I don't want you to tell me specifically what she told you, but I want to know, did you have conversations with her about it?
Yes,
Okay. And you became aware of it?
yes.
And what period of time was this?
That was the summer of 1981.
Did you encourage Kathie to do something about this violence she was telling you about?
I did.
What did you encourage her to do?
She didn't want to report it, and I encouraged her to do so.
And what was her response?
She was afraid to report it. She didn't want to cause trouble.
Move to strike.
Your Honor, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted. The fact that she is making a mistake is relevant in this.
Is that the case?
What's that, Your Honor?
Your lead case, well, we litigated it, so it's overruled.
Okay.
You need not object to matters that we litigated as to
I
hearsay
understand.
exceptions.
I appreciate it, Your Honor. Just, we'll do it once so that
Yes, that's
we
right.
make a better record. Thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll move on to another topic. Thank you. So, I'm sorry. Were you done with your answer? Did she say why she didn't want to report it?
She was afraid it would cause too much trouble.
Okay. At some point, without telling us the specifics of exactly what was discussed, did Kathie discuss with you the divorce or a divorce that she was in the midst of
Yes,
with Robert Durst?
yes, she did.
When were those discussions?
Probably at the time that she talked about the domestic violence, and then again, I think it was late fall of '81.
Okay. And without going into specifics of what she told you, her experience in this divorce situation that she was discussing with you and her feelings about it, what were they?
She was very upset and worried.
Okay. Were you ever made aware of any, strike that, do you know who Prudence Farrow is?
Who, what?
Prudence Farrow is?
Yes,
Were you made aware by Kathie of an affair she believed that Mr. Durst was having with Prudence Farrow?
yes, I was.
And what were her feelings about that?
She
What
was
her
upset
attitude?
about it.
When was this?
81.
I'm going to take you to January 30th or 31st of 1982. I apologize. That weekend. You remember that weekend?
I sure do.
Now, is there something significant that happened that weekend that lets you really remember some of the details today?
Yes, I hadn't seen Kathie since we went out to dinner.
I'm not gonna ask you-
Okay, I
I'm not gonna
hadn't
a-
seen her in a while, and so when I saw her, okay, what do you want me to say?
Sorry, I think you misunderstood I posed a really poor question. I apologize.
Okay,
If I were to ask you what happened on January 31st of 1987, can you tell me what you did that day?
no,
Okay.
no idea.
So, do you understand that sometimes in life something significant happens that makes the memories stick in your mind?
Yes, I do.
Did something significant happen that weekend that makes that memory stay in your mind?
Yes,
Okay. And was that the disappearance of Kathie Durst?
yes,
And have you-
absolutely.
Have you been questioned about that at various points throughout the years?
Yes,
All right. So, that weekend, the 30th and the 31st of 1982, did you see, strike that, on January 31st, 1982, did you see Kathie Durst that day?
I did,
Okay. And when did you see her?
in the morning.
All right. And did you ever see her again that day?
No,
What did you do that evening? Did you stay in the home? Did you go away?
we were out until after dark, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay. And this is, when you say we, who's
Bill and I, my former husband,
we? Okay. And,
and my daughter, probably.
all right. So you went out that evening
Yes,
and you didn't return until after dark, approximately 8:30 or 9 p.m.?
yes,
And when you arrived home, do you recall the condition of the Durst home in terms of lighting, et cetera?
yes, I do.
What do you remember?
It was dark. Nobody was home. Not a light on. No car.
Now, when they were usually home, when you would see them, would some lights be on?
Yes, that's how I knew they were home.
And when they were home, when you normally see them, would the car be parked in front
In
of
the
their
front,
house?
yes.
Did they have a garage?
No.
So where would they park their car? In a spot where you could see it?
Yeah,
And so when you came home at 8:30 or 9 p.m. on the 31st, your testimony is the lights were off, the car was gone.
yes.
If, based on the positioning of your two houses, how far is your house from theirs?
I guess we had half-acre lots, so whatever that is, that's the distance. Not that far,
Well,
but not that close.
okay. So this is a kind of a spread out, spaced out area, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay. So your houses were not that close to each other, is what you're saying?
yes,
Based on your knowledge of the houses. Let's assume somebody was having a fight inside of the Durst home and you were inside of your home. Would you expect that you would be able to hear it?
Probably not, unless it was very, very loud.
Okay. Did you ever see Robert Durst that day on the 31st?
No,
Did Robert Durst ever come over to your house while you were present for drinks that day or that evening on January 31st, 1982?
absolutely not.
If someone were to say that Mr. Durst came over for drinks that day, the 31st, or that evening, what would you say?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. He did not.
Are you certain about that?
I am positive.
Were you home that whole day where if he did come over, you would know that?
Yes. Well, I mean, I wasn't home during the day, but at night, yeah, I was there.
But when you were gone
Yeah,
at night, your husband was with you?
yes,
Okay. I'm sorry, I might have misheard that. Did you say you were gone during the day or at night?
during the day,
You were gone during the day?
yes.
Okay. In the days or days following Kathie's disappearance, correct that. Did you ever see Kathie again after that time you saw her in the morning on the 31st?
No,
In the day or days following her disappearance, did you notice anything out of the ordinary at the Durst residence?
yes, there was nobody home, or there were no lights on, except for a blue light in the basement window.
So,
It was odd.
so this home that we're looking at in People's 51 had a basement?
Yes,
How do you know that?
I saw it. I was down there.
Can you describe for the jury just this basement? How do you get into the basement?
There was a trap door, or, you pick up the floorboards in the hall, sort of the hall living room area, and
Yeah.
there was a staircase.
And this was from within the house?
Yes,
Okay. And you had been down there before?
yes.
Was this a large basement or a small basement?
Well, the part that was open, I don't, there may have been furnace or stuff that I didn't see, but right the immediate area where you could go was quite small.
Okay. And is it an area that you could stand in?
I think so.
Okay. Were there any windows to the exterior of the home from this basement?
Yes,
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's 50 again. Can you see on this photograph
yes.
where this window would be?
It's on the left, going towards the lake.
Okay. So you see what I'm pointing
Yes.
to right now?
Yes,
Is that the
Yes.
area of the window?
yes.
Your Honor, may I circle that on People's 50?
Yes.
You see what I circled?
Yes,
Is that this area where you saw this light coming from?
yes.
Had you ever seen a light coming out of the basement of their home of all the years you've lived
No.
there before this?
No,
When you saw this light coming from the basement, were there any lights on in the house?
no.
How long was this light on? Is this a one-night thing, or?
It was at least 2 nights.
And then after those 2 nights, did the light stay on or did it go off?
I think it went off.
Okay. And did you ever see that blue light again?
No,
Did you ever discuss with Kathie before she disappeared her desire to finish medical school and become a doctor?
yes.
And did she seem excited about that?
She loved it.
Based on your knowledge of Kathie, is there any possibility in your mind that she would voluntarily abandon her life and not finish medical school?
There's no possibility.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
You may cross-examine. Chesnoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dave Chesnoff, and along with some other lawyers, we represent Bob. You've been talked to about this event many, many times, have you not?
Yes, I have.
You have spoken to the police, correct? You have spoken to the prosecutors, correct?
The Mr.
Mr. Balian or
yeah.
Mr. Lewin?
Yeah,
They've recorded you when they've talked to you, correct?
yes.
Did they give you a copy of your recorded interview before you testified?
No,
Have you ever seen it?
no,
Okay. You also spoke to the folks that made this film called The Jinx, correct?
I spoke to them before they made the movie, not before the Jinx, because they knew that I didn't want my name involved.
Got it. Did you say at some point in time you thought that the people that made The Jinx were trying to manipulate you? Do you remember saying that? Overall?
Manipulate me?
Yeah. I mean, you didn't want to work with them, did you?
I was afraid to talk to them until I didn't talk to them at the time of the Jinx. They didn't contact me.
Okay. But you talked to them before they made the movie, correct?
Before they made All Good Things.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. So would you say you've spent, did you speak to newspaper reporters?
yes.
Did you
Charles
speak?
Bagley,
Bagley from the New York Times, right?
yes,
And Mr. Bagley was a reporter that spent a lot of time working on this, correct?
yes.
Okay. So you spoke to Mr. Bagley. Did you speak to people from news television shows like Dateline or things like that?
No,
Okay.
Investigation and Discovery Channel and CNN, but after the Jinx.
Okay. So you had many opportunities to speak to many people about the events, correct?
Yes,
Now, we asked to speak to you, did we not? Meaning Mr. Durst lawyers, correct?
I think so. There was a request yesterday?
Okay, but there was also a conversation that you had with Mr. Lewin in 2015 where you indicated you really didn't ever want to talk to Bob's lawyers. You remember that?
I don't remember that, but
Is that consistent with the way you were feeling?
yeah,
Okay, and since that date, you've never talked to any of us about this, correct?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you'd agree with me, 1977, 78, 79, 80, 81, that's a real long time ago, isn't it?
It sure is.
Okay? But you would agree with me that closer in time to an event, it's a lot easier to remember what happened than it is 33 or 34 or 35 years later, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you've discussed this also a lot of times with your ex-husband, correct?
yes,
Okay. In fact, sometimes, like the first time the police talked to you, they actually had the two of you together to discuss this, did they not?
yes. I think it was the New York City police.
New York City or New York State?
I think it was New York City.
Okay, so those were the folks that were investigating the disappearance because Kathie was reported to have gone to New York City, correct?
Yes,
So the police in New York were the ones who were actively involved investigating what happened when Kathie was not found, correct?
correct.
And there are different ways that a person can disappear. For example, it could be if you're living in New York as a woman alone, it was not a good time in the 80s, was it? Pretty violent place. Would you
I don't
agree?
really remember New York as ever being violent.
Well, it got better, for example, during different mayors. Isn't that fair to say?
Yeah, but I was never afraid to be in New York.
By yourself?
By myself, lived there by myself,
Okay, you took the subway by yourself?
all the time.
Okay, do people get hurt on the subway traveling by themselves, Miss Mayor?
I think that lacks foundation, Your
Do they? I guess, percentage-wise, I'm sure a few do,
Okay.
but not a lot.
All right, well, let's go back to the number of times you were talked to. So, the police from New York come to visit you and your husband, correct?
Correct.
And this is within about, what, 8 or 9 days from?
No, it was a month at least, I think.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness to refresh her recollection?
Well, she hasn't indicated she doesn't recall.
Okay, so you believe that it occurred a month later? Is that what you're telling
I
us?
think so. It didn't seem like days in my memory.
Okay, now may I approach her as an inconsistent statement, Your Honor?
You don't have the characterization.
All right, all right, all right. You can, you don't need to approach.
Okay.
You make,
Do you recall that on February 9th, 1982, okay, that the police came and spoke to you? Remember that?
I don't remember the date.
Okay, and they spoke to you and your husband together, correct?
Yes.
And you told them,
when she said that she doesn't remember the date, that gives you the opportunity to refresh her recollection if a document would refresh her recollection.
thank you, Your Honor, may I approach?
Would looking at a report of the conversation refresh your recollection if you saw it?
Yes,
You may
probably.
approach and show it to the
Thank you.
witness.
Struck, yeah. Huh.
So the question is whether it refreshes your recollection or not. That's the only question.
Yeah, let me finish reading.
Okay?
No, I don't remember this. This doesn't seem right. No, this doesn't seem right at all.
Okay, you may return the document to him, and if it doesn't, you may proceed.
I don't remember this at all.
Okay, you may give the document back to.
Thank you.
To Mr. Chesnoff.
So, Mrs. Mayor, you had a chance to review a report, and it did not refresh your recollection as to the interview that you had with the police. Is that right?
No, because I don't remember that Bob came over for a drink or that I saw him at all.
Okay, that's stricken.
Okay. Do you remember when you met with the police, Detective Struck was a New York police officer who was in charge of the investigation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you remember stating that both of you stated, actually, you were there with your husband, they did not see Kathie in person on that weekend? Remember saying that to them?
No,
Okay. Do you remember saying that the only time that they saw Bob was later on? You remember that?
no.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I have one moment just to say something very important to Mr. Chesnoff?
Sure.
Thank you.
Nice to get help, Your Honor.
No, it's,
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
When you met with the police the first time, you didn't tell them anything about any issues surrounding domestic violence, did you?
Did I don't, I recall that we did talk about it.
Okay, so your testimony is that the first time you met with Detective Struck, you told Detective Struck that you had seen or heard about examples of domestic violence?
Yes,
So if Detective Struck interviewed you, made a report, and it's not contained in there, are you saying Detective Struck is inaccurate?
yes, I am. That report is, that you showed me didn't refresh my memory. It was inaccurate.
Okay. Now, they told you they were there for the purpose of investigating what happened to Kathie, correct?
I would assume.
Okay. And as police officers, they wanted to learn as much as they could. They told you that too, correct?
Well, I don't recall them saying that.
Okay, but you certainly wanted to tell them anything that you thought could be helpful, correct?
Yes,
Okay. In the course of that interview, did you tell them that you went out to dinner with your husband or were out for the afternoon, correct?
yeah, I guess so.
By the way, did you tell them in the first interview within, in your words, a month of when this occurred about the blue light?
Yes, I would have.
Well, did you?
I don't remember.
Okay, so when you reviewed this, did you see that in the report?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you see in the report where it said you didn't see Kathie or Bob the whole weekend?
Yes, I did.
You did see it in the report?
I saw it in the report.
Okay. Now, you would agree that what you saw at the time is what you observed or heard yourself, correct?
Yes,
And you're a psychologist, is that correct?
that's correct.
And I know that on direct, Mr. Balian asked you the question of whether or not you can separate
Yes,
between what you read and what you saw.
exactly.
But as a psychologist, you realize that after 30 years of reading and hearing different theories, different ideas, that certainly could have an impact on your memory. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
It could have an impact if it weren't a post-traumatic stress
Okay, have you been treated?
related incident.
Have you been treated for that?
No, I have not, but
Okay.
it would, in my opinion, qualify as an extremely traumatic event for me, and
But-
that my memory is sealed
Okay.
because of that.
Okay, and so it was so sealed that when you first met with the police, you never told them about the blue light, correct?
Sustain.
Um,
Sustain. You need not answer an objection when I sustain the
Oh,
objection.
thank you.
Okay?
Now, when you came back at around 9:30 that night, on the 31st, you didn't see their car, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and to get to the train station from where you lived, you could drive to get to the train station, could you not?
You had to drive.
Right. So if you were going to take somebody to the train at night, especially when it was cold and windy, you would take your car, correct?
Yes.
And of course, when you got home, Bob's car was not there, was it?
No.
Now, you had a cordial relationship with the Durst, did you not?
I did.
Went to their house for dinner, correct?
Or parties.
Barbecues.
Yeah, I don't remember any real formal dinners there, but
But you knew that the parties that Kathie had were sometimes wilder than the parties you might have. Is that fair to say?
I'm not sure.
Well, you commented in either a discussion with the folks for the police when you met with them that she had bigger buddies, that she had wilder times with. Do you remember that?
Yes, but I don't think I was at the parties.
No, but you knew about them.
Well, that's different from being at them.
Okay, I agree with you. But you knew that she went to kind of wild parties with other friends, right?
Yes,
And you knew that, in fact, there was drug usage, did you not?
I did not
Okay.
at
did
the
you?
time.
Okay. Well, you saw a change in Kathie, did you not? At one point in time in her personality?
I don't know about in her personality. I was concerned about the parties. Didn't quite fit.
Do you remember being interviewed by Mr. Lewin and other policemen on January 28th, 2015?
I do.
Okay. And do you remember saying, I mean, they were sort of a simple girl, and then one summer, and I can't tell you when, we went to a party. They had a big party. There was talk about Kathie and her girlfriends hanging out at Hugh Hefner's house.
Your Honor, that's going to call for speculation. It's hearsay. Double hearsay.
No, I do remember that.
Okay, let's pause for a
Explain the
moment.
answer, Your Honor.
Hold on. Is there non-hearsay purpose?
This relates to her testifying about the change in Kathie.
It could only be relevant if the statement is true, therefore it's not a non-hearsay purpose.
Hold on, I didn't know about that. To a party, there's a big party. Okay, you saying there was sort of a simple girl, I can't tell you, a big party, just talking, girlfriends hanging out. They were sort of, I'm sorry, I don't think the question called for hearsay, but I'll listen, it's overruled, but I'll listen to your questions.
It's fine, Your Honor.
Carefully.
She answered. I'm
Your Honor, the
comfortable.
motion is
I'm
strike with respect to the answer, which discussed hearsay, of what people said at a party.
How can it be stricken if you didn't overrule it?
Hold on, this is a different motion. This is a motion to strike. There's nothing wrong with the question. Was the answer responsive? Let me look. Overruled.
Thank you. And you know as a psychologist that drug use can cause depression, anxiety, mood changes, affect people at their work or their school, correct?
Yes, it can.
And you were concerned for her, weren't you?
Pardon?
You were concerned for Kathie, weren't you?
But I didn't know about the drug use.
Okay, but you were concerned for her, were you not?
I was
Because
yeah,
you
well, it was a little out of character. I was wondering what she was up to.
Okay.
I had no idea that she was using drugs at that time.
Okay. She also drank a lot, did she not?
In the end, she did.
Okay, so we're talking about,
I know about one time that she did.
okay, so.
I don't know about before that.
Okay, but in the fall of, I guess it would be 81,
Yes,
you saw an increase in her drinking, correct?
yes.
Now, you have described Bob as being weird, have you not?
Oh, I don't remember using the word, Bob. Or to you.
Okay. You did
No.
say, you did say he wasn't warm and fuzzy. did
No,
you
he
not?
wasn't warm and fuzzy,
Okay.
but weird,
Okay. So if in your discussions with Mr. Lewin and his fellow law enforcement folks, you said that Bob was weird, what do you mean by that? That's what he asked you. You remember that?
I don't really remember that specific question or my answer.
May I approach and show her the question and answer, Your Honor?
Would that refresh your recollection to see
this description of your conversation?
I'm not sure.
Okay, have a look and try.
I'm not sure.
Doesn't matter if it, just see if it does.
Where are you looking?
Look together here.
Oh, she was happy? Okay.
And when you say Bob is weird, Bob is weird. Well,
Well, I wrote right here. He's
Yeah.
distant. He wasn't the warm fuzzy.
right, but you said he was weird,
Okay, you can, this,
right?
Well, that's what I just defined it as.
Okay.
He's distant and wasn't the warm fuzzy.
All right, that's not appropriate. Refreshing, but all right.
Do you remember telling Mr. Lewin he was just weird, which is a lot of what Asperger people are, off, like you know, off the mark? Do you remember telling Mr. Lewin that?
Did I use the word Asperger?
Yes, you did. If you want to take my word.
I may have used that word because it came up during the trial in Texas.
Okay.
But I don't remember thinking of Bob as having Asperger's during the time I knew him.
Okay, but
I
you,
was kind of struck by his self-description that he had Asperger's
well, as a
many years
psychologist,
later.
I'm sorry, as a psychologist,
Right.
you recognize that Asperger is on the spectrum, correct?
Yes, I know what it is.
Okay, and one of the characteristics of a person with Asperger is their inability to connect. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, and they can be standoffish, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you would agree that Bob could be standoffish, would you not?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Now, you would see them more often in the summer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you were a year-round resident,
Yes.
okay? Now, you've told us that you believed that Kathie had complained to you about domestic violence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You never contacted her family?
I didn't know her family.
No, that may be the reason you didn't contact them, but the question is, you never contacted her family, did you?
No.
Okay, did you ever try to find a family member that you could talk to?
No.
Did you ever contact the police?
That
About-
wouldn't have been my place to do.
Well, you're a friend, right?
Oh, I would never do that.
Okay, no, just please listen to the question. You were her friend, correct?
Yes.
You're a woman, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You practice psychology, correct?
Correct.
You're familiar with domestic violence, correct?
Yes.
You know that there are people that you can report that to, correct?
It wouldn't have been my place
Ma'am?
to report it.
Okay. Do you know that there are people that you can report it to? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
There are people you can report it to.
Social services, for example? Is that a place you could?
It was not my place to do this.
The bottom line is, in
It was
spite of,
not my place. I was a friend, not her best friend.
did you know her best friend?
I met her friends.
Did you ever talk to her friends about the problem?
No, I did not. I
Okay.
did not have that relationship with them.
Never saw any bruises, did you?
Not at the time she talked to me.
Never saw any marks on her, did you?
I didn't. She said she had them, but she didn't when I saw her.
Okay. Never told the police when you met with them the first time about domestic violence, did you?
I think I did.
Okay. Now, when people are getting divorced, both parties make claims against each other oftentimes, right? It's not always a friendly divorce. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember telling the police you were shocked at her claims because you never witnessed anything between them. Remember saying that?
I don't remember saying it, but I was. I had no idea that was going on when she told me.
Now, they weren't joined at the hip, were they? I mean, if Kathie could be someplace without Bob, is that fair?
Yeah,
She was an independent woman.
yes,
She went to school in New York, as you described, at medical school, correct?
yes,
And you would not see her as much once she started school, correct?
correct,
And sometimes you'd see Bob when she wasn't in South Salem, is that fair?
probably.
Okay, and they had actually at some point in time several places to live in New York, did they not? One
I
on
don't
the east
know.
side,
Yeah,
one on the east side, one on the west side?
I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask you this. The last time that you saw Kathie, she was very drunk, wasn't she?
No, I saw her on the 31st.
Well-
Before she disappeared. She was not drunk.
Okay, well, assume that in spite of telling the police you didn't, you did. The time before that, was she very drunk?
Sorry, the question,
I'll rephrase it, Your Honor.
Rephrase your question, please. Yeah.
The time before you claim is the last time you saw her, she was very drunk, was she not?
She was drunk when I saw her in November, or I think November or December '81.
Objection overruled.
She had come to your house, correct?
Yes,
And she had been drinking when she got there, correct?
yes,
And then you had some more drinks at your house, correct?
correct,
And then you all went out to dinner, correct?
correct,
With another couple, correct?
correct.
And Kathie put away 2 bottles of wine herself, didn't she?
I have no recollection of
Was
that.
A lot of wine?
I don't remember what she was drinking.
You remember describing her as a mess?
Yes, well, I don't know, but she was. But she was not a mess from the drinking. She was a mess from
Well-
being upset.
Okay, so she drank at her home, she drank at your house, she drank in the restaurant, and she was a mess at that time, correct?
She was very upset.
And you don't think that the multiple drinks in that afternoon and into the evening had any impact on her being upset or a mess?
I think she was drinking because she was unable to deal with the situation.
Move to strike, Your Honor. It's not,
It is. Overruled.
now, you've told us that you think you saw her on the 31st, is that right?
On that Sunday, I
Right.
think, whatever that was, the 31st, I believe.
And do you remember lending her something?
I loaned her a hat.
Okay. And you were concerned that you weren't going to get your hat back?
Well, I remember joking, I remember that whole week extremely well because of what happened, but I remember saying to my husband, I gave her one of my good ones, I guess I'm not going to see that hat again for a while. See that hat for a good long while,
No, let's go back to this blue light.
because there was nobody home.
I got you. Let's go back to the blue light. You said you described it as weird, but do you remember telling Mr. Lewin it didn't make you suspicious? You remember that?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Do you think it would help if I showed you?
No, I just don't remember saying it.
Okay, and you don't think it would help to see what you said on a tape-recorded conversation with Mr. Lewin?
I don't know if it would help or not.
May I
It was
approach,
very
Your Honor?
strange to see a blue light in a house that had no lights, where nobody was home, where there never had been a blue light before.
You may approach and you can show the witness, see if that refreshes her recollection about that statement.
Page 49, line 6.
Just read that to yourself and see if it refreshes your recollection.
Yeah, that would have made sense.
Okay, so that's, Mr. Chesnoff, you may inquire about it now that your recollection is refreshed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is it fair to say you thought it was weird, but you didn't think it was suspicious? Right?
I'm sure I must have said it.
Now, Bob's the person who informed you that Kathie was missing, correct?
Yes,
And he came over to the house to tell you and your husband, correct?
yes,
And he came over, as you would expect, a husband whose wife was missing, to inquire of you and your husband if you knew where she was, correct?
correct.
And when you spoke to him, he didn't seem alarmed, did he?
Not particularly.
Okay, in the sense that he was trying to hide something. He was just himself, right? The way he always acted.
My husband saw him. I was in my pajamas, so I heard the whole thing, but I didn't see him.
So he wanted to know if you folks knew where his wife was.
Yes,
Because you were a logical couple to ask since you lived next door, correct?
yes,
And if you were missing, you'd expect your husband to have gone over to the Durst and asked, have you seen my wife, correct?
yes.
So there was nothing unusual about Bob coming over to ask for help, was there?
It's hard for me to say it wasn't unusual because,
Well, not putting aside whatever you've read and whatever you think and whatever position you have, at the time, it would not have been unusual for a husband to come next door and ask you for help trying to find his wife, correct?
yeah,
Okay. And do you remember telling Mr. Lewin he was looking for her? Remember that? She hasn't said she doesn't remember yet.
I don't recall exactly what I said in the conversations with Mr. Lewin.
But it was clear that Bob came over and he was looking for her, correct?
Yes,
Now, do you remember being concerned that you couldn't get the police to go into the house?
yes, I do.
Okay. And the reason you wanted the police to go into the house was because if they went in the house and there was no evidence of wrongdoing in the house, we probably all wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
But they didn't go in, did they?
No.
Later on they did they not?
Yeah, 20 years later.
Hearsay.
20 years later, they went in.
Withdraw my objection.
You saw them do a search of the house, forensic search, 20 years later, right?
No, I did not, but when Janine Pirro reopened the case, they came up and did all kinds of things.
Did you
and
see it yourself?
I knew of what they were doing from the detective.
Okay.
I did not personally see them drag the lake.
How about, did you see them go into the house and set up forensic tents at the house?
I did not, but I was told it happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
To
but,
look for,
pardon?
to look for scientific evidence, correct?
Just a moment.
I don't know what they were looking for. The house, the whole basement had been renovated.
So these last few questions, there have been objections, and I need to rule on them before you can answer.
Oh, okay.
So let me go back
Okay.
and look at them, because I have a transcript right in front of me.
Okay, thank you.
Did you see them? I did not. See it. I knew they were doing you saw them do a search. So you saw them do a search. The answer was no. After that, it's stricken.
That's understood, Your Honor. Did there come a point in time where you had dinner with Bob, with your husband, after Kathie had disappeared?
Yes,
And was that in South Salem?
yes,
You remember the name of the restaurant?
no,
Okay, and it was just the three of you?
yes.
And do you remember that he was friendly?
Yeah, cordial. I mean, he was not,
Actually, as cordial as Bob could be, right? Considering his personality.
probably.
Okay? And at that dinner, did Bob continue to ask you if you had any ideas of where Kathie could be?
No, I don't, I seem to recall that he did not. We
Okay.
did not talk about Kathie.
Okay, he didn't talk to you about any affairs she may have been having?
No,
Were you aware of that?
no.
Okay.
It was rather bland conversation, as I recall.
Okay, but you were at dinner with Bob and had a normal evening and had dinner together, correct?
Well, I wouldn't call it exactly normal.
Well, you had dinner,
We had dinner.
you had a bottle of wine,
I don't remember.
okay. But it was with Bob and your husband, and,
We thought it was rather odd at the time, and we went, he asked us.
well, let
We
me ask you,
went-
let me ask you this.
Wait for the question.
Bob was your friend, correct? At the time?
Kind of, not in the past,
Okay, at the time.
not at the time.
Okay, so between December 31st and February of the next year, you completely changed your opinion of your relationship with Bob?
Absolutely.
And you still went to dinner with him?
Yes,
And you still had him in your home?
yes.
Isn't it true, ma'am, that a lot of your feelings about Mr. Durst are not as you promised Mr. Balian, based on your memories, but more based on all the influences that have affected you over the
No,
years?
I remember the dinner.
Court's indulgence, please. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Balian.
Yes, please, thank you. This dinner you had with Robert, how many months after the disappearance was it?
A couple.
And why did you agree to it?
We weren't quite sure how to deal with Bob, and
What do
it just seemed to be easier to just go out to dinner and see what he wanted or what was going on.
Did you want to go?
Not really.
What, if anything, were you afraid about telling him you didn't want to go?
We didn't want to upset him.
Overruled upset. Stan.
Why didn't you want to upset him?
Because we were nervous about him, worried about him.
At this dinner, did he ever mention his missing wife?
I don't recall that he did.
Did he ever ask you anything about, do you know anything about where she was
No,
at that dinner?
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
I want to go to a question Mr. Chesnoff asked you, and he confronted you with a statement you made to the detectives and Mr. Lewin, page 49 of that transcript. Mr. Chesnoff asked you regarding the blue light, if it was suspicious, you saying, I just thought it was weird. I didn't think suspicious. Do you remember Mr. Chesnoff asking you that?
Yes,
Okay, I'd like you to look at your entire answer, please.
it's upside down.
Okay, this screen is off, and is this
It's-
something that you should
It's
be showing?
upside down.
I
Or
can read
should
it.
you approach and show?
Yeah, I can read this.
No, Your Honor, this is I remember we tried to do this and you said.
Right, not.
Yes, let me read this, please. Then it's not on the screen.
Okay.
You want to
Sure.
you approach
Yeah, sure.
the witness and show it to her. This
Sure.
is the right way to refresh recollection.
Well, I'm not refreshing recollection.
Okay. Oh,
I'm trying to
inconsist-
show the entirety of the statement, not just half of it.
All right.
Your Honor, it was
Okay.
offered for the limited purpose of refreshing her recollection I did not read the entire transcript, and this is now an effort to get in an entire transcript, which is inappropriate.
Your Honor, this is an effort to,
Not, this is an effort. Is this was an inconsistent statement presented, and is this a consistent statement to rebut it?
Correct.
yes.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
What do you want me to say?
I'm going to ask you question and answer, and you tell me if that was the question and it was your answer, okay?
Okay.
Question. The blue light was suspicious to you. If I said how sure, answer, I just thought it was weird. I didn't think suspicious, 'cause I didn't know she was gone. Was that your complete answer?
Yes?
Your Honor, I move to strike. I asked her a specific question.
Yeah, that's correct.
You need to
Oh,
wait.
wait, I'm
Oh, sorry.
We're having a different dialogue. You
Oh,
have to, please be quiet
I'm sorry.
right now.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I asked her if it would refresh her recollection specifically on the issue.
Okay, hold
whether
on.
she thought it was suspicious. It did, and she agreed that she said it was not suspicious to her.
All right.
Your Honor, she showed half her answer.
Your Honor, these speaking objections.
Yeah.
You're making a speaking objection. I'm
Okay,
responding to your
Mr.
objection.
Lewin, stop that behavior. Stop it. Just a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, please. I'm going to allow this as a prior consistent statement. I believe that the inference was, the answer created an inconsistency, and this rebuts that. Whatever mode was used to create the evidence of inconsistency, it may be rebutted with consistent statement. You may proceed.
Thank you. So was your answer to that question, I just thought it was weird, I didn't think suspicious, because I didn't know she was gone?
That's correct.
Okay. And so at the time, you were saying that I just thought it was weird, I didn't think suspicious. Are you saying you didn't think it was suspicious in 1982 because you didn't know Kathie Durst had disappeared?
Exactly.
Did it become suspicious to you a week later when she never showed back up?
As soon as I knew she was missing, it became very suspicious.
Okay. You were asked on cross-examination about Mr. Durst, about Asperger's. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you were shown, to refresh your recollection, part of your statement to indicate that Bob was just kind of weird. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you need to, I guess before I ask you if you need to refresh your recollection, in that interview, do you recall what you told us about whether you thought, based on your experience as a psychologist, Bob actually had Asperger's?
Did you ask me if I thought that? I don't remember that you asked me.
Okay. May I approach? Would it help you to refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Look at page 19, line 12 to 14.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this.
Okay. What was your reaction?
Well,
No, now, asking the present what
Yes.
what her
Yes.
what
Okay.
her opinion is.
okay.
You knew Bob back then, right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with Asperger's, correct?
I am. You know, I have to tell you, the whole concept of Asperger's and being on the spectrum probably didn't develop until the 90s, or, I mean, that became a big thing later.
Right. So my question is,
Yeah,
Let me ask it this way. Does Asperger's make somebody violent?
oh, not necessarily.
Does Asperger's cause people to beat their wives?
Not necessarily.
Does Asperger's cause people to murder people?
Absolutely no. I guess it could, but it's not the usual case.
Okay. The domestic violence, and you were asked questions about whether you reported it.
Thank you.
Do you wish you had reported it?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I do not
Objection,
wish I had
Your Honor.
reported
Sorry, what's
it.
your objection?
Cause speculation,
No, it would be,
lay opinion, I don't know.
you wish, I think it's credibility.
Anyway, Your Honor, I think she already answered that she wouldn't have reported.
Well, can I say something?
You may answer
Go
the
ahead.
question.
Okay. What's the question?
You didn't report it at the time, right?
No.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have reported it?
Your Honor, that's based on hearsay.
Well,
Overrule. It's credibility. You raised it. yeah.
would I have reported, if I knew that she
Your
was
Honor,
going to
what?
disappear, I would have
Your
reported
Honor.
it. You know, in hindsight, yes, I would have done more. But at the time, I was her friend. I was advising her. I was not her psychologist. I had no duty to warn, and even that wouldn't cover duty to warn. So, no, I don't see anything wrong with what I did at the time.
I sustain the objection.
Thank you, move to strike.
No, I'm sorry, I overruled the objection.
I
overruled the objection.
I unmoved to strike.
Yeah, right, okay. Thank you for that.
You testified that Detective Strzok's report that you reviewed, in your opinion, was inaccurate, is that right?
Yes,
And you don't know personally, you've never met Mr. Detective Strzok, right? Other than the interview? You didn't have any other relationship with him?
no,
You don't know personally the quality of his work, right?
no,
You don't know how detailed and accurate he was in his investigation, correct?
I do not.
You don't know what relationships he did or did not have with witnesses in the case, is that correct?
Correct.
You do not know what investigation he did or did not do.
I'm going to.
I do not.
Yes,
Assumes
irrelevant,
fact.
sustained, stricken.
Okay,
I'll just strike the last one.
thank you. You discussed Kathie's alcohol consumption on cross-examination,
Yes.
and you said it seemed to increase, is that right?
I said at the end, that last dinner we had, she was obviously drinking too much.
Okay, and you also indicated you didn't know personally of any drug use by Kathie, correct? This increase in drinking, or this whatever consumption of alcohol change there was, did that coincide with the abuse she had been describing to you?
Yes.
I think that's all I have. I assume, it's a dumb question, but I assume you never got your hat back, is that right?
I never got my,
Your hat back? It never was found?
no, no.
Okay.
It
Thank you.
was it's very sad, the whole thing.
Mr. Chestnut?
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Bob had come over to your house for drinks in the past, correct? Over the years?
Over the years, sure.
Okay. So assuming he told the police he may have come by your house for drinks around that time, it's possible, is it not?
The first time I found out that
Ma'am?
he said he came to my house for
Ma'am?
drinks.
Ma'am, please.
I can't answer that?
No, listen.
Listen to the question.
Yeah, just
Okay.
listen to his
Okay.
question. It's a little different from your answer.
He came over to your house on many occasions for drinks, did he not? And you to
Some
his-
occasions,
Yeah, and you to his house, correct?
yes.
So if Bob told the police in this time frame that he came by your house for drinks, that's possible, is it not?
I can't answer that. I don't understand what you mean.
It wouldn't be inconsistent with the behavior that you folks shared as neighbors, would it? To have drinks together?
Well, it's not, we
Yeah.
did have drinks together.
Okay.
It would have been kind of inconsistent at that time
Okay, but,
because we hadn't done that for a long time.
okay. Well, you regularly had drinks,
Not in the end.
well, in the holiday seasons, you had drinks? You acknowledged that previously.
Yeah, but not that year.
Okay, so,
Not in 1981.
only in 1980, 79, but,
I hadn't seen them very much in 81,
okay, including around this time.
including around that time.
Okay.
Yes, so it would have been unusual.
Assume that the detective did accurately record your interview.
Uh-huh.
You didn't see anything when I showed it to you about you reporting domestic violence, did you?
I don't remember. You
Okay, well-
showed it to me just now. I don't know.
Sorry, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, I don't think the hypothetical is correct. You need to
Okay.
rephrase that question.
All right. I showed you Detective Strzok's report,
Yes.
correct? And in it, it reports what he says you said to him when you met, correct?
Supposedly, yes.
Okay?
Can you show it to me again? Because I
Sure.
don't remember.
Yes.
My glasses. Yeah, okay.
So now, does that refresh your recollection as to what's contained in the report?
Yes.
Okay. So, may I have it back, please? Thank you. Assuming the report is accurate,
No, she's testified that the report is not accurate.
okay, let me ask
So
it to
you
you.
can't have her assume that something she says is not accurate is accurate. That's not an appropriate hypothetical. So
Okay.
try it a different way.
Well, I'm going to try it this way. Did you take any notes back in 1982 of your
No.
please let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Did you take any notes of your conversations with the detectives back in those days?
No,
Did you keep a diary?
no.
Okay. So you have no written record of what you said to the police on that day, do you?
I do not.
Okay. And the policemen came to talk to you because they knew you lived next door, correct?
Correct.
And they wanted to learn as much from you as possible about the facts surrounding the time frame in question, correct?
I don't know what his motive was, but he did come to talk to us.
Well, they explained to you that they were investigators from New York, correct?
Yes.
They were investigating the disappearance, correct?
I remember that whole interview was very uncomfortable with him. That I do recall.
Okay, but please listen to my question.
Okay.
Your feelings are very clear. I'm asking you about what was occurring. You had Detective Struck, correct?
Yes?
There were also other policemen with him, correct? Remember
I
that?
don't remember that.
Okay, did you remember seeing that in the report? Did that refresh your recollection?
No, but you can show it to me again. I'm sure it's there if that's what he wrote.
Okay. And you understood that you and your husband were there to try to help the police, correct?
Yes.
And at any time, did the police tell you to shut up? I don't want to hear about it?
I don't remember that.
Okay. They were polite, were they not?
I don't remember.
Okay. So you will agree with me that you don't remember saying certain things that are contained in the report, correct?
Yes.
And you also don't remember the circumstances and how people were acting, correct?
I don't know what you mean, the
Well, you just told
circumstances.
us you don't remember if the police were polite, correct?
I don't remember that they were polite.
Okay. So is it fair to say that when not remembering the circumstances, that your memory from almost 40 years ago may not be as complete as the records that may have been kept, correct?
No, it is not fair to say that.
Well, I'm not trying to be unfair.
Well,
But
I think my memory was quite good.
Okay, well, you-
On Struck, not particularly.
Would you describe the other two police officers that were there?
I have no idea who they were.
Okay, so you don't remember.
Nope.
Okay. Do you
I don't
remem-
remember anybody coming except Struck. I
Okay.
don't remember him bringing anyone else in the house.
Okay, so if there were other policemen present, you don't remember that, correct?
Well, there may not have been other policemen present. That may not be an accurate report.
Okay. So if, I don't want to ask you an improper hypothetical, so let me ask it to you this way. Your position is the only person you can remember talking to that day was Detective Struck.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have no memory of the other policemen.
No.
Do you have any memory of not getting to say what you wanted to say?
I don't.
Okay, you felt like you could share, didn't you?
I can't tell you that. I don't recall. Reading that statement, the whole thing is inaccurate
Okay,
for
well-
what my memory.
Okay. It's only inaccurate if you said the things you think you said, right? If you think you told them,
Sustained.
if you think you told them facts that are not in here,
Yes.
it's only inaccurate if you actually told them that, right?
Sustained. Objection sustained. You don't have to answer.
Thank you.
Would it be fair to say, ma'am, that 40 years ago is a long time? Right? Right?
Yeah.
I'll accept.
40 years ago is a long time.
And a long
Yes.
time for us to remember what happened, correct?
Except, as I said before,
ma'am,
this was a traumatic event,
Okay,
and
but-
it sticks in your memory. It stays
Apparently-
for traumatic events.
Well, can traumatic events also cause you to forget what you told somebody? You're a psychologist.
That would be a PTSD. No, it made the memory sealed in my mind.
Okay, so are you telling us that if you've been through what you call a traumatic event, it may not impact your memory the other way, to forget the things
Well, it
that you...
didn't in my case, and I don't know theoretically whether, yes, I'm sure some people have their vehicles exploded and they don't remember it for months or years.
I'm not-
This was not the case with me.
Right.
I remember it clearly.
Okay, but you will agree with me that you have no memory of telling the police anything about a blue light or anything about domestic violence.
What? That I don't remember telling them?
Right,
I told you I remember that I did tell them.
okay. No further questions.
What
was it that,
Mr. Bailey.
thank you, you said you had some interactions with Detective Strauss, right?
Yeah.
What was it that, you said something about being uncomfortable. What was it about that made you uncomfortable?
Wait, well, can you,
What was it that made you uncomfortable?
with Detective Strzok?
Yeah.
Well, what I recall was that the whole issue of the drinks, I'm not sure what made me uncomfortable. Let me
Okay,
refresh
that's
my
fine.
memory.
No, it's fine. It's fine. If you don't remember, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Anything else?
No, thanks.
May this witness be excused?
Yes.
All right, we're going to take our morning break until 10:55 p.m. a.m. 10:55 p.m. would be nice, but I don't want to come back that late. 10:55 a.m. Remember, do not talk about the case or about any of the people or any subject involved in it with anyone, including the other jurors. Do not make up your mind about the verdict or any issue until after you've discussed the case with the other jurors during deliberations. Thank you. Have a good flight.
Thank you, Your Honor.
For the contemporaneous in the record that the hearsay exceptions or definition of non-hearsay is in Evidence Code Section 1250, People versus Riccardi, 54 Cal 4th 758, and People versus Crew, 31 Cal 4th 822 at 840. They support the rulings that I made previously and that I'm reiterating. Now your objection stands for the record. You need not repeat the objection. Those are the cases I considered when allowing this sort of testimony. Thank you.